The Audio Cinema presents The Whispering Grove by Audio Cinema Original. Chapter 1. The Old Path. Chapter 1. The Old Path. The forest had been waiting, not in the way that stones wait, patient and indifferent, but in the way that living things wait, with breath held and roots trembling beneath the soil. The morning mist crawled between the oaks like a grey river finding its way home. Elena stepped off the gravel road and onto the mossy trail. She was a woman of 40, lean and watchful, with mud on her boots and a leather satchel slung across her shoulder. Behind her, struggling with an oversized rucksack, came her nephew Thomas.
Aunt Elena, are you absolutely certain this is the right path? The signpost back there was completely illegible.
That signpost has been illegible for 30 years. I could walk this trail blindfolded. My father brought me here before I could read.
The trail narrowed as it climbed. Ferns brushed their legs. Somewhere above, a woodpecker hammered against dead bark in a steady mechanical rhythm. A stream crossed beneath the path through a stone culvert, its water dark and cold. They walked in silence for 10 minutes before the trees opened into a clearing. In its center stood a cabin built from rough-hewn logs, its chimney already breathing a thin ribbon of smoke into the morning air.
Someone's here, before us.
The cabin door swung open, and a broad-shouldered man in a wool coat stepped onto the porch. His beard was silver, his hands enormous, and when he smiled, it was like watching a mountain decide to be friendly.
Elena, you came. I put the kettle on an hour ago. The tea is ruined, but the welcome is fresh.
Martin, you look like you have been arguing with the weather again.
The weather started it.
He laughed, a deep rolling sound that sent a jay screaming from the nearest pine. He turned to Thomas.
And who is this? Too young to be your husband, too old to be your son.
My nephew Thomas. He studies botany at the university and thinks forests exist only in textbooks.
That is not entirely fair. I have also seen them in documentaries.
Martin shook the young man's hand firmly.
A scientist. Good. We need one. Come inside. There is someone you should meet.
The cabin was warm and close, smelling of pine resin and wood smoke. A fire crackled in a stone hearth. Seated at the heavy oak table, writing in a journal with the focused attention of someone who had forgotten the rest of the world existed, was a woman with grey hair pulled back in a tight bun.
Petra, our guests.
The woman looked up. Her eyes were pale blue, sharp as winter sky, and they moved from Elena to Thomas with the precise evaluating attention of someone accustomed to cataloguing everything she saw.
You are 3 hours early. I was told noon.
We caught the dawn train. The later one was canceled. Something about a fallen tree on the tracks.
A beach, the one on the eastern embankment. I told the railway board last autumn that its routes were compromised. They sent a man with a clipboard. He agreed with me and then did nothing whatsoever.
She closed her journal and stood. She was small, barely 5 feet, but she moved with the contained energy of a compressed spring.
Well, since you are here, we may as well begin. Martin, bring the maps. Thomas, you said you study botany.
Yes, at the...
Good. Then you will understand what I am about to show you. And more importantly, you will understand why it should not be possible.
Chapter 2. What should not be possible. Chapter 2. What should not be possible. Petra spread 3 hand-drawn maps across the table, weighing down their corners with coffee mugs and a chunk of granite. The maps showed the same valley from 3 different years, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and this spring.
Look at the tree line. 10 years ago, the spruce forest stopped here at 800 meters. 5 years ago, it had advanced to 840 meters. This spring, I measured it at 920 meters.
120 meters of advance in 5 years. That is extraordinary, but not impossible. Tree line migration due to warming is well documented.
I agree. Alone, it would be remarkable but explicable. Now look at this.
She tapped the center, of the most recent map.
This meadow, the one we are sitting beside right now, has been a meadow for at least 200 years. There are paintings of it from the Habsburg surveys. Shepherds have grazed it continuously since records began.
And toe.
And in the last 18 months, 63 saplings have appeared in it. Not around the edges where you might expect seed dispersal, in the center, in a pattern that no wind, no bird, and no squirrel could produce.
The cabin went quiet. Outside, the wind stirred the trees, and they all heard it. A long sighing exhalation that moved through the canopy like a slow wave.
What kind of pattern?
Concentric rings, 3 of them. The innermost ring appeared first, then the middle, then the outer, as if the meadow is being reclaimed from the center outward.
Petra, you have been studying this forest for 40 years. What do you think is happening?
I think the forest is doing it on purpose.
Martin poured tea, fresh tea, not the ruined batch, into 4 ceramic cups.
Before any of you say it, no, she has not lost her mind. I have seen the saplings myself. I pulled one out last month. Its root system was connected, physically underground, to the root system of the nearest mature oak, 40 meters away.
Mycorrhizal networks can extend that far.
But his voice had lost its confidence.
Mycorrhizal networks transport nutrients. They do not coordinate the placement of 63 saplings in concentric rings over 18 months. Something is organizing this, something with intention.
The fire popped. A log shifted, sending a cascade of sparks up the chimney. Outside, the wind moved through the trees again, and this time, Thomas thought he heard something beneath it. A low, rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat buried deep underground.
I want to see the meadow.
After tea, the forest has been waiting 200 years. It can wait 20 more minutes.
Chapter 3. The Meadow. Chapter 3. The Meadow. They walked out into the clearing at 9:30. The mist had lifted, and the morning sun slanted through the canopy in long golden shafts that turned the dew on the grass into scattered diamonds. A thrush sang from somewhere unseen, 3 bright notes, a pause, then 3 again. The meadow was larger than Thomas had expected. It stretched perhaps 200 meters east to west and 100 north to south, ringed on all sides by mature forest. Oaks, beeches, a few ancient chestnuts with trunks as wide as doorways.
There.
Thomas saw them immediately. Young saplings, knee-high, scattered across the meadow's center in a pattern that was unmistakably deliberate. 3 rings, just as Petra had drawn. Oak saplings in the inner ring, beech in the middle, and spruce, impossibly far from the nearest seed source, in the outer. He knelt beside the nearest sapling and brushed the soil away from its base. The root was thick for a tree so young, and it dove straight down with none of the lateral spreading he would expect.
It goes deep. Unusually deep.
2 meters at least. I excavated one in February. The taproot descends vertically, then turns horizontal and runs directly toward the forest edge, like a cable.
Elena stood at the center of the innermost ring. She turned slowly, looking at each sapling in turn.
How many in this ring?
7 in the inner, 14 in the middle, 21 in the outer. Multiples of 7.
That is not ecology. That is mathematics.
Yes, that is precisely the problem.
A gust of wind swept across the meadow, and every sapling swayed in the same direction at the same moment, not with the wind, but against it. Thomas felt the hair rise on the back of his neck.
Did you see that?
We have seen it before.
He was standing at the meadow's edge, one hand resting on the trunk of an enormous oak.
Elena, come here. Put your hand on this bark.
Elena walked to the oak and placed her palm flat against it. She stood still for a long moment, her expression changing from curiosity to something deeper. Surprise, then wonder, then something very close to awe.
It is warm. Not from the sun, warm from inside.
Every tree on this boundary is the same. I measured them in January at night in -15. The bark temperature was 4 degrees above ambient, every single one.
Thomas stood up from the sapling and looked around the meadow with new eyes. The clearing was not a gap in the forest. It was a space the forest had made, a deliberate emptiness being slowly, methodically filled.
Petra, when you said the forest is doing this on purpose, you meant the whole forest, not individual trees, the system.
The system, the network, whatever you want to call the thing that connects 10,000 trees through 100 kilometers of fungal thread and makes them act as one organism.
The thrush sang again. 3 notes, a pause, 3 notes. And from somewhere deeper in the woods, another thrush answered. The same pattern, the same pitch, as if they were not 2 birds but one voice singing from 2 throats.
What do we do?
We watch, we measure, we document, and we do not interfere.
She looked at each of them in turn.
This forest has been here for 8,000 years. It has survived ice ages, wars, and the complete indifference of every government that has ever claimed to own it. It does not need our help. It needs our attention.
And maybe our silence.
They stood in the meadow as the sun climbed higher, and the last of the mist burned away. The saplings were still, the trees were still. But beneath their feet, beneath the grass and the soil and the tangled web of roots that connected every living thing in that valley to every other, something vast and patient and very, very old continued its work. The forest had been waiting, and now perhaps it had decided to stop. You have been listening to The Whispering Grove by Audio Cinema Original, a cinematic audiobook production by the Audio Cinema. For more audio cinema productions, visit app.theaudiocinema.com.